mic. Okay, my mic's on. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about therapeutic timeouts. I do have counselors we're talking with, and just go over them as a way of reducing conflict and especially the escalation that occurs in conflict, whether in couples or other relationships, because that escalation is usually where the real damage occurs. So the way a therapeutic timeout generally should work is we have the idea that either person can call a timeout, and I usually do it when I realize that the conversation is going to a point that it's negative, and if it increases or it continues the conversation, it's only going to increase the conflict and it's only going to have negative outcomes. And I don't want that. It's kind of, you can't see. Well, I wonder if you could watch this. Here we go. So it's kind of like if I'm crashing and driving in an airplane, instead of going, I want it to go, and I recover. Oh, I got the sun on my face here. Oh, that was cool. Okay, so either person can call a timeout when they feel it's heading towards arguing and fighting that's not productive. The person that calls the timeout is the one obligated to leave. You say, hey, I feel like this isn't going to help us. I need a timeout. I'm going to go to my room or wherever. I'm going to go for a walk. I'll be right back, And so you can't be like, we need a timeout. You go get lost and tell the other person to go. you are obligated, since you call the timeout, to leave. The next is I've actually experimented on thousands of couples and other relationships also included too. And after all my experimentation, I've come to the conclusion that 30 minutes is optimal. I mean, you have some kind of pursuer and distancer in the relationship usually, and the pursuer is like, oh, I don't need 30 minutes. In 1 minute, I'm good to go. I'll be right back. And then you have the distancer that's going, oh, no, I need 2 weeks to think about this. I don't want to go back to it, and stuff like that. So anyway, 30 minutes. And I recommend you put a timer on. Put a timer on the stove, the microwave, whatever you use, Google. You can ask to put a timer for 30 minutes. So when you take the time out, there's some things I'm going to explain. But the first 10 minutes, you should physically separate. That means go to different ways, because people are like, well, we don't need to. We can just sit there. No. All it takes is one grunt from the other person. What was that? Well, nothing. Well, I'm going to make it something. I know what you meant by it, And so it's too easy to engage. So you should physically separate. And then the next 20 minutes, I call, you can have what you can, if you need for some dire thing to communicate, you can have what you call pass the salt conversation. This came up because I experiment myself on these things because I want a good relationship with my family and my sweetheart. And so, explain timeouts. We took a timeout one time or something like that with my wife, and then it was dinner time right then. And so we went into dinner after the 10 minutes, and I'm sitting there, and the salt is sitting like right in front of her. I can't remember if it was ketchup or salt by this. It's been many, many years, but, sitting right there. And so I was like, Rob, can you ask your mom to hand me, can you give me the salt, And he's like, it's right in front of Mom. Ask her. I didn't want to say, well, I can't talk to her because we're in a timeout. So, and there are other times we found like, hey, I just need to go pick up Rob from soccer or something like that. But you don't get into issues, but there can be needed information download. Oops. Okay, so here's the big key. You realize after those 30 minutes, you must return to talk about the problem. Because, I watched the couples where you have the pursuer and they're like, oh, I don't like it, because then, we say we're going to take a time out, but then they never come back, and then the issues get swept under the rug, and then they're left there, and I'm boiling till eventually we have another fight, and then we pull all the issues out and attack each other again. So you agree to return. That helps the pursuer be able to leave you. And then you also agree to separate. So the pursuer will be able to separate if they know they're going to return. And the distancer will be able to return if he knows or she knows they will get a chance to separate. So that's really key. Two other things. I put this up here because after doing timeouts for a while, we occasionally have them. I realized sometimes it was headed down towards an argument. You can't see me. Here, watch this. Down towards an argument and stuff like that. But it could recover. So we may not have needed a timeout at that point. So a self-check statement looked like this. It looked like, sweetheart, it feels like we're starting to get into arguing and fighting. Do you think we need a timeout? Or do you think we can recover and do well? And I'd be like, oh, that was kind of a snippy comment I made. So sorry. No, I think we can maintain and go. Let's try it without a timeout. Okay, great. And we get back into helpful problem solving. Two other considerations. Well, there's probably three. The third is the intent of a timeout, but I'll save that for last. So while you get to those 20 minutes and you've got past the first 10 minutes of, cursing, swearing, I don't know what you're doing. I should have never got married. Should have got myself sterilized. Why do we have kids? Whatever you're thinking. I'm sorry. But anyway, you get past that. Then you get into more logical thinking. Try to think, what is the problem facing our relationship and what's a meaningful solution? Because usually problematic talk is looking at the partner as the entire problem. So the common thing is, well, you never spend time with me. You're always out with your friends, and we never have time together. You don't value me. That would be kind of the problem talk. That's not that's attacking the problem rather than working together. That's attacking the partner rather than working together to attack the problem. So instead, maybe thinking, the problem is facing our relationship is we don't have enough time together. And if we had some more time together, I would feel better about our relationship. That's my view of it. And so a meaningful solution that involves compromise might be like, so let's plan dates every Friday. If I got a date with you every Friday and we spent meaningful time together, I'd feel good about it. And how about this? We'll go every other week. This week is my week. We plan where we're going, I'll plan where we're going, what we're doing, get the babysitter stuff. You show up and make it a pleasant experience. Next week will be your week. You get to plan where we go, what we do, and I'll just show up and make it a pleasant experience and stuff. And you get the babysitter and stuff like that. So that's kind of an example of that. The third is the intent. Whenever you use any counseling technique or tool like this, you must realize, in fact, that the technique only works if you're motivated by a desire to help the relationship. That's why I'm calling a timeout, is because I think, wow, I love this person. I want relationship to get better. So if I use a timeout, that will help us not escalate the arguments and get back to a good place where we feel good about each other. If you want to use it as a weapon to be like, oh, timeout, I don't want to talk to you. You can use it as a weapon, but it's not going to work. It's not going to help your relationship. It's only going to work if you're motivated to use it properly to help your relationship. Hope that helped. That was a little bit on timeouts. Thanks. Have a great day.